today's pre-class exercise, we're going to look at the structure of a eukaryotic cell and its organelles. Okay, let's move on next to look at the nucleus, shown here. The nucleus is where our
As app developers, it's our job to maintain the illusion that once started, every app is waiting patiently in the background, looking for its chance to be the star when called on. So whenever the user switches back to your app, whether or not the system has killed it in the interim, they should be presented with the same UI they had when they left. To help, Android has a pair of handlers specifically for persisting state in these circumstances. OnSave instance state is called immediately before onPause, so as soon as your app is no longer active,
when HTTP requests come into a server, they typically have some data that the client wants to send along. So we'll have key value pairs that are sent along with the request. So these will be things like the username for a login. And then also, if we're sending information back to the clients, how do we do data marshaling in the opposite direction? So how do we convert our objects back to key value pairs that can go into some HTTP response, or maybe we convert that into some other format like JSON or XML. There's a whole bunch of different formats that we could use that we may want to convert this data to before sending it back to the client that requested it.
So the supply curve is a function. So it's described, for example, by this curve in the graph. In contrast, the quantity supplied is just a number. So for example, if we choose a price P prime here,
so an increase in the quantity demanded is going to occur in response to a decrease in price. So let's suppose that the initial price is P1 and the initial quantity is Q1. Now let's imagine that the price of this good falls to P2. And in response, we can see that there's been an increase in the quantity demanded to Q2.
So the first ingredient we have here is agar. This tube is poured as a slant. And as you can see, the slant has two parts to it. When you inoculate a slant, you're going to take your inoculum and stab it first down the middle, and then you're going to fishtail the top. And you'll do it a couple of times to make sure there's plenty of inoculum.
So we can see then that Y is dominated by Z. Y is a strategy that player 2 would not select. It's irrational to play that strategy. So I'm going to strike that strategy from the game. I'm just going to remove it, because player 2 would never select it.
Maybe you could help me and draw a ray in this plane coming out from the origin. So there's a flat ray going under the back of this curve, and it now actually shows up there. Thank you.
no problem.
Great. So that is a straight line now, not on the top of the curve, but in the horizontal plane.